it gives me great pleasure to invite Stefano Domenicali to deliver the 39th Maurice Memorial Lecture.
Well, first of all, it's a great honor to be here in Oxford, and thanks to Professor Holsby for inviting me to this department. Well, I don't know if I'm at the level, of the standard is here, but I will try to, to share with you 1 hour, maybe less, maybe more. I don't know. It's not up to me. It's up to the interest that you are in Ferrari to share really what is all Ferrari about. As you may know, we have a strong link with the Oxford University and a very close cooperation with your control and thermofluid groups. I wish to warmly thank Professor Lambia for looking after this precious relationship. Ferrari is always very keen to work with prestigious universities. This is basically our main source of talents for the engineering and the design of the car. Each of you has the potential, and I'm talking to the students, of course, to do remarkable things, and each of you can become a great F1 designer, engineer, or a member of our team. So on my way to here, I was wondering, what are you expecting from me? A very predictable, self-celebrating of what we as Ferrari are, where of course this is not what I want. Or some conventional Ferrari brand promotion. I don't think that is really what exactly I wanted. Or something about Ferrari history, not today. Or something about economic result. Despite it's are really very good, I don't think this is the place where we have to talk about it. So I was thinking, in a world of engineers, if you go and follow the route of the engineers, you will be destroyed. So I tried to be a little bit more creative. And as you know, Ferrari like to surprise or to be a little bit different for the others. So I want to take you in this lecture, I don't know if it's the right word, but in this moment together, about stereotypes. The classic stereotypes about the Italians. but today, I want to adjust these stereotypes into the Ferrari language and culture. And the exercise at the end will be quite interesting, I believe. We are an Italian company with a very solid international platform. We are in 61 different markets and countries with a relevant number of different cultures to integrate together in-house. This is the greatest asset and challenge that we experience every day in Maranello. When Eric Lubbock founded the Maurice Lubbock Memorial Fund in 1957, in honor of his father Maurice, he did it because the power of engineering and management were, in his view, the key factors for the improvement of human condition, for the growth of a nation, that was England, of course. Mr. Maurice Lubbock was a passionate believer. And I think that on that, Mr. Enzo Ferrari was, too, a passionate believer in his dreams and wanted to leave a sign of his vision to the world. This is why we at Ferrari feel this responsibility of being something that is not only a Formula One team, that is not even only an automotive constructor, but is a company that reflects the integration between the culture of our nation and all other countries worldwide. I will try, in simple words, to give you the tools that connect the values of our group with the changing world that is all around us. And as I said before, these slides represent, that you will see in a while, represent the base of hopefully a discussion around Ferrari and around Formula One, of course. So I will try to be synthetic in order to leave you the space or the room for question, because I'm sure that Ferrari is quite an interesting thing to be seen from the outside. So let's start from this journey that is basically representing the start. So we are ready. So let's go. Okay, so we are speaking about a company that is Ferrari, that is based in Maranello in Italy. And let's try to follow what I said before. Try to connect the stereotypes of what we are considered outside. Because we have seen so many of these talismans of all types in Maranello. We have created a perfect relationship with this talisman that's fairly common in Italy. But we pull it out only when things have gone well.
Fernando Alonso wins the Chinese Grand Prix.
But this is,
a race after he has
it's our kind of superstition. We work hard to make it happen.
Fernando Alonso.
We, as you know, loves be on the stage in a grand opera. But, sorry, because it was too quick. But as Italians, we always ready to boo the tenor if he misses a note. We are not afraid of looking to the great master for inspiration, including Shakespeare. And then, at the end, Italian opera is adored throughout the world. We have been accustomed to have faith. Faith means feeling united for a purpose. Faith means knowing how to pull together, especially when things get tough. And we at Ferrari have proven this many times. We are not going to lose this habit. Of course, as you can imagine, and we will discover later on what all this picture means, of course, because I see some faces that say, "Whoa, what is going on here?" So, beauty is part of our history. Italy is unique for having had a multitude of histories: Etruscan, Romans, Empire, Renaissance, and one unique advantage. It's a country divided into so many tiny states with their princes, palaces, arts, and treasures. Thus, beauty has entered the DNA of Italians. We do all what we can to maintain this tradition.
Marcello, come here. Hurry up.
For us, this is the real pressure of life. You know, taking aperitif at the Spanish Steps, strolling around Venice, leaving a message at the Juliet balcony in Verona, wandering along the fashion streets in Milan, climbing the hill of the Capri to look at out of the Faraglioni. But we bring people from different countries around the world to choose their own Ferrari at Maranello. Cicadas? No thanks. When you are too confident of your own beauty, you get sloppy. But beauty can go hand in hand with usefulness. That is how is Maranello. This, as you can see, is basically our premise. It has moved toward the period because we believe that we need to give to all our people a good environment when they really can work in a better place. And going back to what I said before, Maranello is a little village in the middle of nowhere, when we have to bring the right place for the young, talented people that are coming from all outside. We have gone through a different process because, and then we can discuss about our history later, when Mr. Ferrari started his dream, he was in Modena. Then, from the moment he discovered that was this dream coming through by producing the car, we moved to an area that is close to Modena, where there was really nothing. We start to build the premises for the first car. He built the Fiorano track, and that was the place where we started to build, what is all about now. Italians are individualists, but this spurs them to look ahead and achieve success. This is a photo of an Italian look ahead, that is Mr. Ferrari. And then, of course, this is another photo of another Italian who looks ahead, that is our chairman, Mr. Montezemolo, who had the inspiration and the basis to make sure that all what was founded by Mr. Ferrari was kept alive and with the duty of keeping, you know, what is Ferrari through the future. And then we have passion that brings joy and sorrow. Always having fun throughout the world is like a huge and accelerating shot of adrenaline. And I want to add also responsibility. You have to be a winner in a world when the competition is very tough. The right amount of effort along with a sharp, that I hope that is the right thing, to be honest. I asked my people to check 10 times because it would be a little bit embarrassing, I would say, if it was another one. Anyway, the right amount of effort along with a sharp, keen, shrewd intelligence in interpreting laws and regulation is essential. Ferrari is a constructor, not a team. And for this reason, he has always strictly respected the law with comply with regulation. 63 years in Formula One against all rivals adds up to a unique professional and life experience. Genius is individual, but it needs fertile grounds to flourish. This fertile ground is a team which combines determination, generosity, curiosity, decisiveness, courtesy, Italian spirit, and international professionalism. This is why Maranello is a breeding ground for bright ideas and solutions. A team in which anyone with talent can show it. And in this picture that you have just seen, you see then basically the osmosis and what Formula One was able to bring to our road car side in all the different kind of technology that we applied, starting from the gearbox. We were the one that first initiated the manual gear shift on the steering wheel, to the carbon fiber material, to the electronic, to the telemetry, to the suspension, to all the systems that basically now are used in our road car. People is an intangible value. An asset derived from quality, motivation, and team spirit. We call it Formula Uomo. Basically, we are talking about person, not people. And if I may take 1 minute to speak about this, I would like to tell you what we are doing in Ferrari in order to make sure that the people and the person as a man is at the center of and the priority for our company. Of course, I don't want to talk about what is all about the professional career, what is the reward system and all sort of things that are part of the organization side of it. But I want to talk about the fact that we know that the people has to be followed also from the private life. And we are taking care of all the people that are coming, not only from the outside Italy, but also from other towns. And we make sure that they are able to live the working experience in order for them not to worry about the stuff that are not related to the business. So we have a lot of attention to their situation as a family, as school, on the health side. We have every year visit in order to make sure that for also the kids are very well followed by the group of experts. And then, for example, going to the specifics of Formula One team, we discovered a couple of years ago that, if you think that a race is not in the hand only of the drivers, of the engineers, but in the pit stop, normal mechanics, if I may say, as have in their hands the key of the success, we move toward a situation where now all our mechanics are really followed like they were athletes. We started a program of fitness for them in order to improve the fitness quality. We had started a job in order to improve the dynamic of all the pit stop. We, for example, every year we simulate with all the sensors around the body the different movements in order to try to minimize, the movement and to maximize the potential of their body in order to work specifically with everyone in a different position, how they have to improve their health. And then we have the so-called mind room session, where we try to make sure that they are able to maximize their performance in an environment that is always very stressful. And once again, don't forget that these guys are, as I said, normal people that sometimes lives under the spotlight and have in their hands the fact that we can lose or win the title, and that's why we pay a lot of attention to them. And speaking about them, we know how to be tenacious in all the circumstances. And tenacity means keeping a hold on emotion. This has always been Ferrari's approach. If things don't go as expected, there's only one way out. Don't waste time in idle chatter, but work even harder, knowing what has to be achieved. Anyone says that Lambrusco is Coca-Cola of Maranello and doesn't know it. You know, it's a sparkling wine that can be bone dry or sweet, transparent or intense. A magical drink perfect for celebrating success. And as we have demonstrated many times over in Maranello, a lot of people always come to Maranello. And there was a very famous thing that Mr. Ferrari, as you can see with Ingrid Bergman, he was the man that wanted for everyone to come in Maranello. He never went to see people, even if he was invited all around the world. But the power of the magic of this man, and I have to say about our company, was everyone came and wanted to come to Maranello. This is something that I would say no one has the privilege of that. In Italy, you can eat well anywhere. But of all places, there is one where you eat better. This is basically Maranello. You see all the drivers likes to stay with us. And speaking about coffee, you can take a ristretto double in a large cup with cold milk, with a hot milk, in a glass with hot water. In a country like Italy, where you can order coffee in 1,000 different ways, it might be worth trying out the experience of working and living there. So just a promotion for all you guys that you want to come to Italy, even if with this Caterham car, you know. It is, okay, good. That's very nice. But what's behind all this? Every day we follow one guiding principle: to create, design, and manufacture cars that are a symbol of Italian excellence throughout the world, winners on road and on the racetrack. Unique objects that evoke a world of dreams and emotion. With which values? And that's why now I try to connect all what we said through the presentation. I mean, we are speaking about people that make the difference, but can make the difference only through a teamwork, through people that are working together, respect themselves, know the others what are doing, and know how to translate their experience into our world that is basically divided into racing and road cars. Able to control emotion, because we have a great asset. Emotion is something that, if it's handled in the right way, can give you something special, unique to manage our world that is always very challenging and very tough. Integrity. To be tenacious, to believe in the work of the team, to believe and know that we have the responsibility of being an example throughout the world for what we are doing and the way we are doing, is something that has to belong to the people that work in Ferrari. Tradition and innovation, it has always been the spirit of our brand. You know, we are working since the beginning of our history, trying to keep the traditional values, the basics of our core business and our products. But innovation is the path toward the future. So the mix between these two things is essential for us and to the people that are working in Ferrari. And this is something that you really see if you are coming to Maranello. all people that had the privilege, I have to say, to work from different environments, understand that when you live there. And this is something that is very, very peculiar to our world. Of course, passion and excellence is something that is really in the nature of our business. You know, one thing that we are living in this moment is really what has to be given to our new market that do not know what Ferrari is all about, because they know only, you know, that is a great car, because they know that is something that a very important man has to have. But they don't have, that is something that is the feeling around the world. But this is not really what they know, because there's no tradition. And so one of the things that we are trying to do now when we are going to new markets is try to explain that behind a car there is more than a mechanical device that is moving on the road. Because when you have a Ferrari, you know that you are part of a world that has to be, of course, of an exclusive world, but has to be something that represent the real, authentic values that you are proud to be part of. This is something that really, I would say, is incredible when you try to convey these things with the new generation, new people that really do not know what we are talking about. They know only the power of money. And the power of money for a lot of people means that you can have everything immediately without waiting or having the feeling of what it's all about. And this is something that is not easy, because from one side you may lose a potential market, but from the other side, if you follow this direction, you may lose the excellence that you want to keep and the exclusivity that you want to keep for your product. So it's the right mixture that we need to make sure that in the future we need to work very hard on that. So I finish here because I know that now there are a lot of people that are thinking what I did. And that was a provocation, to be honest, to all of you. A provocation tried to activate a discussion around, you know, the things that I tried to summarize in this 20 minutes on Ferrari. Because I believe that the most important thing for me is try to explain, above all, I have to say to the young, talented engineers that are here, why they should come to Ferrari. That is my objective, to be honest with you, because this is something that, you know, as always, to be pragmatic. You know, my interest as a team director of Formula One and being on the board of course, of Ferrari is really to try to look ahead and try to involve the best-in-class people in all the different areas, because we can make the difference only if you are able to achieve that. And I want to start from this point, that is basically why in the last couple of years, apart from losing you know, 2 titles of the last race for really nothing, we were not really the leaders. There are reasons for that. You may discuss that, for example, last year, without the accident of Alonso at a certain car that was kicked out from another team. Thank you very much, because I see that he's here. So we could have won the title, but that is a very superficial vision of it. I think that the reason why in the last year we were not really successful as we should have been has a real reason. We were not able to anticipate the change of the Formula 1 world in terms of new rules. We were a team that basically was very strong because around the 2000, from the 1995 up to 2007, 2008, we were able to test every day basically in our tracks in Fiorano and Mugello. We were doing 90,000 kilometers of tests on top of racing. So we had a way of working that was basically trying to follow the usual process of designing, test, after the reliability test, performance, and put on the track. But with a different scheme of evolution of the regulation, with no possibility of testing, we were not able to anticipate the need of investing in simulation. We were not able, at that period, were not brave enough in investing and trying to understand that the way that we were working was not really the one that was needed for the future. And that, I believe, that was one of the things that when I was speaking with my people, I said, listen, of course, now we are in a situation where I believe we are in the right path because we have invested a lot. And I would say what we are doing with Oxford University in that respect is really something that is connected to this new way of thinking ahead. So now we are in a process of trying to understand what are the needs from the organizational point of view and from the structural point of view with regard to the future of Formula One, that has basically my direct interest, but also on the road car side. There is a lot of attention of efficiency on the new engine and that are that with the laws that are very strict are totally different. So these are the things that we need to look in order to give response from the organizational point of view to these needs that are fundamental for our success. And I have to say that in Formula One now, we are in a process of changing the regulation in a very, very severe way. We are in front of a change of regulation where a new engine, a new powertrain will come in 2014. Will be, for us as a manufacturer, a massive challenge. For all the teams in Formula One will be an incredible challenge, not only because it's more expensive from the practical point of view, because also I believe that no one has totally understand what it's all about. We are talking of a totally different generation of engine. We are talking about the introduction of an air system together with KERS, together with a new engine that is using the turbo again after the first use in the 80s. We are talking of an engine that has to use less fuel because we have to speak about efficiency. Consider that now we are using around 150 kilos and we have to move to 100 kilos. So it's a total new world that has to be done in the best way that we can, of course, if we need to be successful. So speaking about these things, it's more than 2 or 3 years that we have started to modify all the dynos, try to anticipate the problems that you know, these kind of things can have the impact on the organization, not only on the technical side, but above all from the need that we have to hire people that has to be the best in class in the different area that we are not used to have. One example is the control system. One other example could be the turbo that we were not used to have since the 80s in Formula One. So this is the area where I really focus on trying to find the right guys for our environment. So we need to have good people that are able to be the top in terms of technology and knowledge on the different things, but are able to integrate with our system, that are able to integrate with different cultures. I remember when I was at the beginning of 90s, involved in HR, where at the beginning of 90s we were suffering of a lack of knowledge on the chassis side of the car, on the vehicle side of it. And the thing that we decided to do is really to open you know, a branch here in England. We were in Guildford. We opened the so-called Ferrari Design and Development together with John Barnard, because we wanted to try to send some of our guys there, try to understand better the know-how, and then transfer to Italy in order to improve the structure. Because we were very strong at that period on the engine side, on the mechanical side of the car, but on all the controls related to the chassis itself, we were very weak. We didn't have, and we are not even now so strong on schools around aerodynamics, around the knowledge of the materialized carbon fiber, that were the first period of the usage in Formula One. So we decided to go there, and that was, I believe, the right choice in order to try to hurry up, to bring back to Maranello the know-how that was needed to be competitive in Formula One. And I would say that now we are in a sort of situation where, in order to make sure that we will, as I hope, leave as Ferrari, you know, the standard of being the best for the next couple of years, we need to make sure that what we are doing now in this new technology has to be the same path of what we did in the past. So we are looking around the world in order to make sure that the people that can make the difference can come to work with us. And we are working in a sporting environment where you know, the tension and the pressure are very high. And this is one of my duty. I mean, my duty is to make sure that the people that are working can filter that through my shoulder. I have to take all the negative aspect of it. That's part of the job. So if you know, the media pressure is very high, it has to be on me. And I'm here also for that. But I need to make sure that the people that are coming, working in Ferrari, needs to understand that they are working in an environment that they don't even understand what it's all about because of this, because of the fact that when you work in Ferrari, and we have a lot of experience of that because we have, as you may know, the Formula 1 family is, I would say, 80% based here where we are, with a compass that is very small, plus that means that all the people that we have employed, know what is all about here and understand when they come to Maranello what's all about when you come to Ferrari. So going back to what I was saying, our organization needs good people with the right skill in order to work together with the different cultures, with different models, and and this is something that I try to speak every time with my engineers, in an environment when I call it technocentric. Our engineers believe that being a good engineer makes the difference. And I have to say, maybe alone around you, but it's not all about it. It's fundamental to be very good on that, but what I can see, an area of improvement for sure in our team, is we need to integrate people. We need to understand that there is not only the technique part of it or the technicality related to the job, but it's a matter of integrated system, integrated people, working together, understanding the need of all the different groups. And this is the biggest task that I see that I have to challenge, my people every day and night. There's no budget problem. This is not true. I mean, that's a problem that they have to understand that Formula 1 is not anymore what it was in the past, where basically there was not really any budget constraint, just a matter of having good ideas, having the time to test, and so on. That is, now we are in a totally different situation. So the need that I would say are different. And maybe a request for all the professors that are here that are very good in speaking about technology, speaking about engineering. I believe it is important that all the new engineers understand that it's not only about engineering, it's also about integration, working together. We are speaking about a team. And that's my request, I would say, because I feel that is something that when I see people, I would say this is the thing that I need for them to grow much more than the other area. This is the need that a company has, I would say, because I see that not only Formula 1, I can see everywhere. So I would say that is a request that I'm doing, to a very specific engineering department. I know that someone is looking at me very bad, but that's what I feel. I have to say. Anyway, no, going back to us. Sorry if I lost the trace. I think that when we talk about Ferrari, now we are saying we are in a championship where basically there are a lot of challenges that are important. We have done a project that in terms of technical regulation is quite stable. After 5 years, I would say that I can see that it's quite difficult to go to a certain curve of development because it's getting quite flat because it's difficult. But we have to fight with the other very strong competitors that were able in certain areas to be stronger than us. And I say that very openly because if you hide yourself with your people in front of the strength of the other, you don't do a good job. And I think one of the tasks of everyone is really to look where the others are better than you. Try to understand and try to react immediately, of course. Not accepting anymore, in any case, that they have to be always the best, because our challenge is to beat everyone. But one of the things that I always ask to my engineers, to my people to watch is why the others in certain specific area are better than us, and we need to understand and react. And then another thing that I'm very focused on is try to make sure that our organization is very methodic. Sometimes we risk to lose trace because we are not very properly organized. We are speaking about the world of aircraft, aeroplane, checklist, debriefing, to be very specific in everything, in all the details that we have to discuss is fundamental. In an environment that is very hectic, when you are racing weekend, there is so many things that are going on around you, that if you are not really spot on and following, really a checklist of the things that you do, you're going to lose the trace. And this is something that it's important to do, fundamental to do, in all the different areas. Organization, when we are talking about specifically racing, and we go back after every session in order to analyze with the drivers every single detail that has to be adjusted or controlled. And another thing that I have to say this year has improved in our team is really the way that we are able to monitor the race through the simulation and through the analysis that we are doing, not only when we are at the racetrack, but also with a group of people that are connected live in Maranello to our remote control. So our word of reference, I would say, is the aeronautics in a lot of respect. We have, I would say, a lot of people that are coming from this environment, mainly on the aerodynamic side of it, because at the moment, that is the new challenge. The performance of the car is, I would say, 80%, maybe could be more, related to the aerodynamic performance of the car. We are talking not too much about engine because it's frozen. I hope that next year, of course, the balance will be shifted in a different percentage. But we are talking about materials that you know, are used in aeronautics. So that's another world where really we have a strong link when we need to grow. We have a lack in Italy, I have to say, of a relationship with university with experience in aerodynamics. And this is something that we have seen, unfortunately, that we have paid the price for. We are strong in other areas, to be honest. On the mechanical side of the car, we are quite strong, I would say, also as a tradition. On the engine side of it, we are quite strong. And this is something that we need to make sure we are at the pinnacle of all this area. And this is why we believe, as I said at the beginning, that you know, relationship with university is fundamental for us. Because here is the world of looking ahead. It's the world of where you can really see what could be the future. And it's up to us then to apply this research to our environment. And this is why I'm here today. And apologies if I take too much of your time. So now really, I would like really to start the discussion with you, because maybe for sure your questions are much more interesting than my speech. So thank you very much for your attention.
I must be careful that I use the microphone so that the people in lecture room 2 can hear me. I know that Stefano's intention was to provoke some questions, and we've got plenty of time for questions, so we'll come to that just in a minute. He has alluded to the interest of Ferrari in working with universities, and I suspect that probably most people in the room don't yet know that Ferrari has actually located a group of their engineers at the Begbrook Science Park, which is the university science park about 8 miles from here. That's a moving population of the Ferrari engineers who are coming to work for relatively short periods of time in that group. And this is something fairly new that we hope will gradually build up to a link between their engineers and this department and other departments in the university. But now is time for questions. Now we are going to have to be fairly disciplined about this process because otherwise the people in lecture room 2 can't hear what the questions are. So the idea is that we'll spot people who are going to ask questions, but please don't actually ask the question until you are in possession of the microphone, so that the people in lecture room 2 can hear. Now, those in lecture room 2, I appreciate that there may be some burning questions coming from there. The only mechanism that we can think of for you to ask questions is to come to the door of lecture room, which I can assure you will be open and welcoming. So I'm going to pass over the microphone so that it can be got to the questioners, and it's over to the floor. Let's start. I think the first one was the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Hi, Stefano. You talked about integration as one of your big points. How do you actually approach that as the director of Ferrari?
I mean, I approach that from different angles, I would say. First of all, from a cultural point of view, I think there is one point that is important, that not giving anything for granted. We assume that we have the same kind of habits. We assume that we have the same kind of languages. We assume that everything is similar in different places, from different people, from different degree of knowledge. This is not true. So what we have done and what we are doing every day in our companies, first of all, really have a formation period where we can talk about this thing. This is something that is nothing to do with the real job that you are doing. It's related to the way that you have to work with the other people. And this is something that we feel that is important, is necessary. Otherwise, you cannot really do the maximum out of your job. So there is, from the organizational point of view, these things that is in the process when you are coming. There is basically a period where you understand what we believe are the most important things to consider when you are coming from a different place. There is an integration related to the way of you come to a different place to work, and there is an integration also to understand how our organization is working, because we have different areas, we have different groups, we have a different way of working. So it's through a process of really trying to explain all the points that for us are fundamental to make sure that these things is faster, because at the end of the day it's a matter of time.
You've given us a fascinating insight into the philosophy of Ferrari. How does that play into the vexed question of team orders to drivers?
Very simple. But I think it's in what you've seen on the slides. We believe that as Ferrari, the teams is the maximum interest. So the drivers are part of the teams. And at the end of the day, we are talking about teams. There is always a team leader that has the duty or the responsibility to take the right decision with integrity for the teams. And I believe that we have always said the truth. Not everyone in our world have said the truth. Close the bracket. We always said that we believe that if there is a driver that is in a better position than the others, it's the duty of the team, therefore of the teammate, to help him to win the title. Because at the end of the day, we are here for that. We cannot lose the opportunity of trying to be smart or a sportsman, I don't know if it's correct to say that, in a not explicit way. So I think that on that respect, Ferrari was always very, very linear and coherent with the philosophy and tradition since its beginning. There were a lot of polemics in the past, and I put my face in front of the one that were criticizing us about this approach. I can see, but this is not my style to speak about the others. You can speak, you can think of what I have in mind for other people, but I respect what the others are doing. For me, it's important to be coherent with this kind of principle, and I think that on our side we've always been there.
Stefano, you spoke about the requirement for being methodical in your approach, but you are under tremendous time pressures as well. How do you balance the two? That's
a good question. I think that to be methodic is fundamental. We have paid the price of not being methodical in the past. That's why we know that there are time constraints and you have to take decisions in a certain period. And the balance is not easy to find. I can give you a very, very simple example of what happened in the couple of last races, where just for you to understand really what is following, what if scenario approach, and what you have to do in 20 seconds, because otherwise your what if analysis you can put on the bin. So I think that on that respect that we have divided action where we believe that is important to be effective immediately on the action, with some other decision where really in terms of priority you may take the right time to make the analysis, I would say. So of course we have to divide these kind of things if you're speaking about the race or the race environment, or if we are speaking about a normal day work in an organization. For sure, the one that the environment where we need to be more effective and more sharp is the race environment, where basically we need to react on what is happening. From one side, in order to try to minimize the number of actions where we need to be effective immediately, we had prepared a lot of people in order to make sure that they were able to monitor all the parameters that we believe they are vital, I would say. And on that we have people with the help of the remote garage in Maranello that are on spot of these elements, and they give us the information. They give us, also here is not a problem of being us, they give to the person that will take the decision the information that for him is necessary to make the decision. One thing for me that is very important is that you can take decisions that are correct or incorrect, but it's important to take a decision. What is not possible is not to take a decision. Because if we are in this environment, that means there is something wrong. At the end of the day, we are a human being, so you have all the elements and then you have to take an action. But for me, it's important that in each of the positions of the organization, the man that has to take a decision have all the elements to make the decision. Then, of course, after, we have to make the debriefing if the decision was right or wrong. And if it was wrong, try to react and understand why it was wrong, because that's important in terms of looping, all the methods that you have to apply.
Stefano, Andrew Blake from Microsoft. I work in a sector of engineering where there are not really that many women that one can employ. You talked about the stereotypes and the importance of stereotypes in your world. So I'm wondering, is it a man's world in Ferrari engineering, or do you have women on your team? And any comments you may have on that?
Unfortunately, we have not so many women in our team. In our company, we are talking about 10%. Speaking about Ferrari, not only Formula 1, 10% of women that are working in Ferrari in our environment. On the engineering side, unfortunately, we are talking about few people that we can count on one hand. That's why I remember very clearly the names. But this is something that honestly, it's a shame, because potentially, in our world, if you have women, they can give them their angle of view, their point of view, but it's not a choice, I have to be honest. It's something that came out with no limitation. I mean, it's just a matter of having met people that were men instead of women. I don't remember, to be honest, in my period that I've chosen a man instead of a woman because he was a man. But unfortunately, I have to say it's a fact that only 10% of our population, working population, is a woman.
I'm interested to have your opinion on the fact that although there are changes coming into Formula One next year, it seems that Formula One has very little to contribute to road safety in the road cars that we drive, whereas endurance cars with hybrid diesels and variable drive and fantastic lighting systems seems to be at the punching edge of the motor car we will drive tomorrow.
I think that we need to be balanced on that. I tell you my opinion, of course. First of all, speaking about road safety, I think that Formula One, with regard to passive safety, was the first in motorsport to start really a proper work on that respect. The key year was 1994, when there was a big crash of Senna when he died. I would say that from that year onwards, the attention from the federation and the teams towards safety has completely changed. We are speaking of another world. To be honest, today, you have to be, there is the human limitation. It's not a technical factor of there is a very catastrophic failure. You have to be very unlucky to really have something serious, because the steps that have been done in the last decades were really impressive. And there is a lot of attention in all the details. For example, now we are studying with a research group, you know, what we can do to improve safety on the head, what we can improve on the visor, because now the survival cell honestly is quite strong and it's quite good. With regard to the future technology, I think that we need to be balanced, because you know, from one side it's true, when we talk about Formula One we speak about the pinnacle of motorsport, but from the other side we don't have to lose the fact that it's something that gives the passion to the people. And sometimes we need to be balanced, because if you're talking about too much on efficiency, then people, you know, I don't know if really that is becoming a sport or not. We need to keep, you know, the trace of what has been the core value of the sport of Formula One, and try to intersecate, I don't know if it's the right English, but sorry, to cross with the value of future technology that has to be applied. And then also we need to consider one thing, that there are certain technology that, once again I take the responsibility of what I'm saying, are not really sport oriented in terms of our culture so far. And don't forget, in the next 10, 15 years, in the world, you know, I know that we have started the work, we have started cars, airs, electronics, but in the next 10, 15 years in the world, the engine will be still the core business of all the automotive manufacturers, because that's that's the volume where you will build money to invest in the future. So I think that needs to consider what is the real trade-off between sport that generate passion and technology that generate interest for the automotive company and teams, because we are talking about a team sport so far, that can generate you know, the money to invest in the future technology.
My name's Rachel.
Caterham.
Sorry?
Caterham.
Caterham, yeah, I do have a Caterham. I race the Caterham. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's true. I just wondered, you know, the view to integration, what is the working language in Maranello?
Depends. No, the working language when we are in meetings, the briefing is English. Yeah, it's English because we have people from different countries. Actually, so far we have, last week I just checked with our HR, in Formula One part we are more than 22 different countries. 22. So, so the working language is English. Of course, in certain, when we're talking about at the engineering level. When we go to the working side, of course, you may understand that it's dialect. Italian dialect.
For the good food and wine.
Of course.
How much does having a human driver slow you down?
So I didn't understand.
Stefano, I should explain that Paul Newman is leading the group that has the autonomous car.
Ah, okay. So we are not useful, you're saying.
There's a pure engineering question, of course. I mean, you know, how fast could the car go if you weren't looking after something soft and squidgy?
I think that is a good. There is one project that maybe we have here our guys of the simulation department are working on. It's basically to try to simulate what is the simulation of the driver that is driving the car. So try to understand what are the effects of the driver that is a sport that there is really an article of a sporting article of the regulation that the Formula One has to be driven. So it's no, it's not a joke. It's a fact. So we are trying to understand and simulate what are the reaction of the driver within a car. So it's a simulator, how you call it? I mean, it's simulating how is the effect of the driver in an environment that is what we have.
But go crazy. What if you didn't have to have a human driving your car?
I will not do this job.
you've said so far. It's been most fascinating. Motor racing has become basically now 2 cars per team. In the past, there have been situations where there have been manufacturers and any number of drivers could choose a car from that manufacturer. Would it be more exciting today if there were, say, 4 Ferraris racing 4 Red Bulls, racing 4 Mercedes, and maybe 4 McLarens, if they can get themselves sorted out, rather than having such a large range of performance? And would you personally like to see 4, 5 or 6 Ferraris racing?
Synthetically, yes. No, because that's of course my opinion. First of all, I believe that is cheaper for a team to. There are 2 possibilities. Sorry, I go back 1 step. That we have just few teams or constructors with more cars, or to have a customer car that is basically the same of what we produce and to give to another team. It's another way of looking, the sport in a different way. So, for sure, it will be cheaper to go toward the second choice that I said for the small team that now, being a manufacturer, have to put in place all the buildings, all the, the structure to be a manufacturer that is very expensive. From the other side, these teams are saying that this is their property. The value of their team is to be a constructor, so they can sell this title to someone new that can come into the Formula One. But purely from a sporting point of view, I would have no problem to go toward that direction.
Stefano, Joe Locke from Jaguar Land Rover. What outstanding attributes would you look for from the undergraduates looking in now that would enable them to come in, and what you would look for Ferrari?
I mean, as a general, how can I say, approach, a guy that has a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of humility. That is because sometimes when you get out from university, you may lose the trace. You think that to know everything, and then you come into an environment of the world, and you discover, oh, what it's all about is different. So the right approach, but with a lot of enthusiasm to deliver something special. I mean, I would like to see people that are feeling themselves really fundamental for the teams. People that can make the difference as an approach. Then, of course, I consider when you get out from this fantastic university to be ready from the skill point, from the preparation point of view. But as an attitude, I would like to see this kind of approach. A person that is always on record mode, because when you're on record mode, you understand where you are. It's like you are on radar. You scan everything and try to, take back the information that the surrounding gives to you and react. So people that are, in this respect, very active, not passive.
Hi, Mike Brady, Department of Oncology. I recognise, as we all do, just how wonderfully fuel efficient your Formula One cars are and how astonishingly environmentally friendly they are. Still, I do wonder whether or not you have ever thought of the idea of entirely electrical or electronic drivetrains, and if so, more interesting perhaps from an engineering standpoint, how profoundly going to such a totally different drivetrain might impact on the design, the holistics, the aerodynamics and so forth of your vehicles. Whether you see in the future an E1 championship for electric cars alongside F1.
As you know, I mean, 2014 will start this electric championship. And it is, from the technical point of view, a quite interesting championship, no doubt. My personal biggest concern is the sport response to that from the public, because you have to understand that basically you will hear only the noise of the tires. At the end of the day, racing is part of passion is part of racing. So if it's only engineering, you may lose that as a very important value. But from the technical point of view, for sure, is something very interesting. So far, the project of electric formula is interesting because I would say gives the possibility toward the approach of new technology in racing. But the first year, I personally believe, will be quite tough First of all, because the environment, economic environment is not easy, and people need to get used to that. And there is another element, if I may add, that is not on the technical side, is from the driving point of view. To make sure that a new formula is successful, you need to have good actors, let me put it this way. It's fundamental to promote this formula that good drivers with good names gives quality to this product. Because if that formula is seen as, with all respect, very cheaper, old drivers are going there, then it doesn't give you the boost to make sure that it will be successful. That's my personal view.
I think we've got time for one more question in the middle back there.
Hi, I'm Claire and I also work for Jaguar Land Rover. And part of my job is trying to convince people to use simulations for testing. And you tell that to people who are passionate about cars, and it is a real challenge to get people to think about simulation instead of physical testing. And I wonder how have Ferrari gone about changing a culture of engineering to move towards simulation?
You need to come and work with us and help me on that, because no, seriously, you know, an environment is difficult to change. Above all, when you come from an environment that has set the records with a way of working that made the difference. So it's a matter of time. It's a matter of having people with this approach, with this open-minded and toward this new technology, I would say. Let's call it this way. And but it's not easy if you are alone. So that's why, you know, we started this project in Oxford University, because we have people, very talented young guys and girls that will help us in not only to deliver a special project in terms of you know, activity, but also in terms of approach, mentality, and this is what we need to move toward this direction.
Well, on that very encouraging note for those who may be looking for jobs, I'd like to ask Lubbock to propose the formula vote. Thanks.
Well, I'm sure you'll agree that we've all heard a fascinating talk, and for me, the questions were even better. I think the way you were able to think on your feet and respond to those was very enlightening. And I think the thing I've appreciated most today is hearing about, from the inside, how Ferrari works, and doing it without destroying any of the magic that is associated with the name. Because after all, I think, as a mark, as a brand, Ferrari is something that most people won't question the excellence of. And like anything, if you dig too deep, you might find things that you're not particularly happy about.
100%.
Yes. And I think one of the things that's come through today is you discussing where there have been gaps and what you've done to plug them. And I think this idea of, if you aren't the best at something, go out and find it and bring it home and adopt it. That's one of the key messages today. My grandfather, Maurice Lubbock, who is the catalyst for these lectures, I think of all the lectures we've ever had, this is probably the one that he would have liked most to have attended. As some of you may have seen from the poster outside, he was a mad keen automotive engineer. You see a picture of him sitting in his Bugatti, which he had made in Corsica as a specially one-off job. I took the opportunity, knowing I was coming to this lecture today, to go and have a look on the web to see if there was any trace of it still. And I see it's off for sale in California for something like 9 million quid. So that and his later history as a director of Rolls-Royce, I think, you know, again, a mark of excellence. He really would have enjoyed attending this lecture, and I feel that, you know, hopefully as his grandson, maybe his genetic sort of markers are actually getting some of the flavour. Shame I'll pass it back to him. I think one of the things you're to be congratulated on here is that this is probably the best level of interest we've had for any of our lectures. Looking at the numbers and the overflow into lecture room 2, we are used to getting some quite big crowds now, but this one certainly seems to have generated the most interest of any that I've known. And I think before you even open your mouth, that's a measure of the kind of magnetism, if you like, of the brand. So I hope that what you've said has added to perhaps that attraction that will draw people to you. And I look forward to hearing the future of this venture out 8 miles out in Oxford, how it to get on. And I will follow that with interest. I'd like to also reiterate Professor Holsby's thanks actually to Eva and the organisers of this, and to the students that set up such great displays. I've enjoyed going around, and those ones where I haven't understood, I've had people to explain them for me. So the numbers grow each year, and I think they're all part of the occasion of this. And I hope you've enjoyed looking at some of the things that maybe are of interest to you and in your field. But I'd like to finish just by saying that one of the key messages you came across with at the end was about integration, working together. And again, that was very much in Maurice Lubbock's philosophy. He liked to meld the 2 disciplines of engineering and management, and that really was a precursor to some of the ideas of actually getting lots of disciplines working together and finding the best methods of doing so. And it's been fascinating for me to hear your take on that. So I'd like to get you all to show your appreciation and thanks for a wonderful evening's lecture.